As a prime minister, leadership, all great leaders in history have had passion for being able to connect with their citizens. The leaders who have failed have probably failed in this domain. Decision-making skills. The person who next leads the country will hold a great deal of power, and it has been said that decision is ultimate measure of power. Good decision-making will be fundamentals of skill for any political leader out there. Vision, creative solving, good timing, and risk management all make for responsible decision-making.
Power of the Prime Minister is subject to a number of limitations. Prime Ministers removed as leader of her party or whose government loses a vote of no confidence in the House of Representatives must advise a new election of the lower house or resign the office. The defeat of a supply bill, one that concerns the spending of money or unable to pass important policy-related legislation, is seen to require the resignation of the government or dissolution of parliament, much like a non-confident vote, since a government that cannot spend money is hamstrung, also called loss of supply. The Prime Minister's party will normally have a majority in the House of Representatives, and party discipline is exceptionally strong in nation politics, so passage of the government's legislation through the House of Representatives is mostly a formality. Under the Constitution, the Prime Minister's role includes advising the Yang di-Pertuan Agong on the appointment of the federal ministers, the appointment of the federal deputy ministers, parliamentary secretaries, the appointment of 44 out of 70 senators in the Dewan Negara, the summoning and adjournment of sittings of the Dewan Rakyat, the appointment of judges of the superior courts, the appointment of the Attorney General and the Auditor General, and the appointment of the chairman and members of the Judicial and Legal Service Commission, Election Commission, Police Force Commission, Education Service Commission, National Finance Council, and Armed Force Council. Under Article 39 of the Constitution, executive authority is vested in the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. However, Article 40 states that in most cases, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong is bound to exercise his powers on the advice of the Cabinet or a minister acting under the Cabinet's general authority. Thus, most of the day-to-day work of governing is actually done by the Prime Minister and the Cabinet.
As Education Minister, monitoring and evaluating the performance of locally and internationally funded projects and programs, developing and supporting programs, services, and activities geared towards personal and national development.
Ministry of Education formulated the national educational policy in terms of the goals and objectives set by the Prime Minister, Minister of Education, and the Cabinet. It periodically prepares plan, program, and project to fit into the national 5-year plans. Although the country's constitution provides the decentralization of certain powers to the states, the Federal Ministry of Education has throughout Malaysia's history played a superior role in laying down policies and guidelines for the state-level education departments, and at times the district-level officials in charge of education. The Ministry of Education functions as two wings, academic and administrative, headed by the Director General of Education and the Secretary General. At the apex of policy planning in the ministry is the Educational Planning Committee, EPC, of which the Minister of Education is the head. Its subcommittees formulated policies regarding curriculum and preparation of textbooks, development finance, higher education, scholarship, and teacher training for approval by the EPC.
As Health Minister, to provide technical advice in policy formation, planning and programming on promotion of health through advocacy, behavior change communication, social marketing and community mobilization. to promote, support and undertake planning, implementing, monitoring and evaluation of health promotion programs in different cities.
Ministry of Health's role is basically to lay the policy and the direction of health services in the country and to show the commitment of the government and the powers to be that health is of utmost importance in national building. And the role of the ministry is to enforce regulation and to be regulator. Imagine if there is no Ministry of Health, anybody can make the claim that their product is the best for health. Anybody can set up a hospital. Nobody is regulated the quality of the workforce involved, the quality of healthcare and the quality of equipment. So the Ministry of Health has a big role as a regulator and policy maker.
The Finance Minister mobilize resources for economic revival and subsequently for economic development and improve accountability for the users of inadequate resources. Facilitate the contributing role of the private sector and non-governmental organization to the strategy of creating greater prosperity and embracing this development process.
Minister of Finance is the minister in charge of government, revenue and expenditure. The minister oversees economic policy, fiscal policy is within the minister's direct responsibility, while monetary policy is implemented by the politically independent Central Bank of Malaysia, that head of which is appointed by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. The Minister of Finance also oversees financial legislation and regulation. Each year in October, the Minister of Finance presents the Malaysian Federal Budget to the Parliament. The Minister of Finance is a very senior government post. Historically, many Ministers of Finance have previously, concurrently or subsequently served as Prime Minister or Deputy Prime Minister. Service as Minister of Finance is seen as an important, though certainly not essential, qualification for serving as Prime Minister. To date, 5 Ministers of Finance have gone on to be Prime Minister.